Conditional access policies are sets of rules that will determine whether a user is authorized to access some of the resources in your organization based on various conditions, such as compliance, location, or even user identity. These policies help make sure that the trusted users with compliant devices can access that sensitive company data, and it enhances the security of the organization. So creating these and applying these conditional access policies, you can control and limit access to those resources and ensure the security of the organization is met. So let's look and see how to create a conditional access policy. So in Intune, let's go to devices and conditional access. And there's lots that we can do with conditional access. So we can create a new policy here in a minute. But one of the types of policies you can create is location-based. So if you're going to use location-based, you have to create named locations. So here you can add countries or IP ranges. So if I say countries, so I can name this USA, and then down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say United States of America. There we go. Cool. Create. So now what it's doing is it created a named location of the USA. We're going to use that later on when we create a conditional access policy. So let's go back to policies. So in policies, we have a new policy. And what we're going to do is name that. We'll name it test, just because we name everything test right now. So users, who are we going to assign this to? Let's skip it right now. But if we clicked on it, we could say include everyone, no one, or special groups. We can also exclude. So we can say, hey, put it for everybody, but exclude the global admin, because maybe we don't want to lock ourselves out. So that's something we can use when we go to apply our conditional access policies. So targeted resources is next. So we are going to say control access based on all or network traffic. So cloud apps, right? So we're going to include all cloud apps or selected cloud apps. So if we do selected, now we can edit it. And we can say, what kind of cloud apps do we want? And we can select the different apps that we have that we want to make sure that we're targeting so that we can ensure that these resources are safe. So these are all of our 365 resources that we have. We can say, hey, all of Office 365. Select. Now, what's our condition? So we have many different conditions, such as device platform. We want to make sure our device is a certain type to be able to access it. Maybe our location. Again, we named a location. The client apps or filtering for devices. I'm going to say locations. So in this, I'm going to configure this. Yes, it's not going to be any location. I'm going to say I want to include all locations, but I'm going to exclude the USA. Okay, because what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to block access to 365 from everywhere except the United States. So let's get to the next part of that then. Access controls, grant. So in grant, we are going to block access from everywhere except for the United States. Now, that being said, we can require multi-factor authentication if we want, if we're granting access, and we can require an authentication strength, require device to be marked as compliant. That goes back to our compliance policies. Maybe it has to be a hybrid Azure joined device. So if it's not a joined device, not accessing, maybe a client or a protection policy. In this case, we're not going to use any of those. We're going to block access. Okay, so I'm going to select that. So we are blocking access. So what sessions? Limited experiences, use conditional access control, sign in frequency. Yeah, we're not going to worry about any of those because we're just blocking access. So we can skip that. Now, we're going to start with report only because we want to find out how this policy works. Because if we started with it by enabling the policy right away and it locked everybody out, including global administrator, because we forgot one thing, then we're locked out. So we always start with report so we can verify everything works as it's supposed to and intended. And then we can enable it. So right now, like I said, this policy, we don't have it assigned to anybody right now, but we could. And it's going to target 365. So nobody can log into 365 because we blocked it. They have to be, we blocked it from everywhere in the world except for the United States. We're blocking access. So I can go ahead and hit create. So now we're going to see that policy show up. Again, it's report only. So that way we can, verify how things are going. So there's many different compliance policy types we can do. A device compliance policy where it's looking at the device and is it compliant, right? That can be the conditional access that we're doing. Maybe it's location based, like we just did with the United States. It can be app based, which is controlling access to specific apps based on their roles or other conditions. Maybe it's risk based. If we have a defender policy on there that analyzes the risk of the device or the user, and if it's a high risk device, you're blocking the access. If it's a low risk device, maybe you allow it with multi-factor authentication. And time based, so that only during specific times outside of business hours you're blocking it, or maintenance windows you're not. So there's many different conditions that go into conditional access, and by applying those, it helps to secure your environment based on what you're looking to do.